Hello and welcome to White Hare Investigations. I'm your host, Anna Rucco. Indian Burial Grounds, and does it connect to Fort Riggs? Special thanks to Team Sinister, Rome Sweet Rome, who originally turned me on to Fort Riggs and led to this investigation, and Jesse. The Native American Burial Ground. The Native American Burial Ground is located in Big Valley, West Elizabeth. Despite being in the middle of Blackbone Forest, the burial ground itself is located in the center of a clearing on top of a small mound, surrounded by trees and shrubs. The center is comprised of a medicine wheel with a stone hatchet in the middle, with wood scaffolding to one side and surrounded by totems of various kinds. When visiting the site, it is labeled Native Burial. Arthur and John's drawings of the site. Notice in John's description it hints that it may be something other than a burial ground. Arthur's drawing says, think this place was an Indian burial ground, whereas John's drawing says, my guess is this place was an Indian burial ground, either that or some other ceremonial place. Basic layout of the Native American burial ground. What I've tried to do is give as detailed a rendition of the layout of the site as I could. It is not perfect, but it's very close to the actual site in-game. By doing this, it makes it clear the direction things are facing and their relation to north, south, east, and west. Native American Medicine Wheel. The Native American Medicine Wheel is a sacred symbol of life, of our planet, of our connection to our ancestors and spirit, and it represents the four cardinal elements and four directions. Also, the four directions of the wheel can also be seen to represent north, which is winter, buffalo, white, and earth; east, which is spring, eagle, red, and air; south, which is summer, wolf, yellow, and fire; and west, which is fall, bear, black, and water. Now, depending on the Native American tribe, the four directions and associated animals vary. This is what they mean to me and how they are represented in RDR2. North would be the American bison, east would be the American bald eagle, south would be the gray wolf, and west would be the American black bear. Ceremonial Buffalo Skull Totem. It is the largest totem situated on the site, consisting of 3 large wooden posts forming a triangular shape with a horizontal post placed at the intersection. Feathers, red straps, elkhorns, and a buffalo skull adorn the intersection of the poles. If you light the totem on fire, using a Molotov cocktail for example, the weather will instantly turn cloudy, and it starts to rain until the fire goes out. I believe this action is meant to represent Wani, who is protecting the site. Wani is the 4 elder sons of Tate, who oversee the cardinal directions, the 4 winds, health, the weather, and fertility. So this totem, I think, is a protective totem for the protection of this sacred site. The buffalo skull. The buffalo, or Tatanka, was a sacred and vital animal for the Native American people. They considered buffalo as a gift from Wakantanka, the Great Spirit. Apart from being a sacred animal, the buffalo was vital in almost all the aspects of day-to-day life. The Elkhorns. The elk, or wapiti, had symbolic significance to the Native American. The elk stood for health and long life, and they consulted the spirit of the wapiti when they wanted to move forward in life. They believe elks are protective, life-giving spirits. Wooden burial scaffold. The burial of men in a tree or scaffold was a common practice among the Plains Indians. They built burial scaffolds that were usually 10 foot long, about 4 foot wide, and 7 foot or 8 foot high. The body was supported on a log platform held up by 4 fork-ended poles firmly planted in the ground. This type of open-air burial kept the bodies from being desecrated by wild animals. The body was usually wrapped in a blanket and stitched so that it would waste away in the wind. Family members also place the deceased person's possessions, such as weapons, on the scaffold. The man's horse would be slain and left near the scaffold. Burial scaffolds were reserved for men only. The bodies of women and children were left in the brush. Buffalo Shield and Spear Totem. There are 4 buffalo shield and spear totems at the site. The 3 are located within the site, with the 4th being outside the site in the northwest direction. They are made of 2 spears, a quiver with 3 arrows, with bead decorations, various feathers, and a circular ring with animal skin stretched inside it, with the design of 7 triangles and a buffalo head painted in red on them. Spears were used for combat, but were also used for ceremonial purposes. Each spear was decorated with feathers, each feather representing an act of bravery. The more the spear was decorated with feathers, the more brave the warrior who owned it. Spears were occasionally accompanied by Indian war shields that made a decent 2-combat weapon package. Beside this is a pole resembling a Native American lance decorated with feathers. These seem to be placed as a marker of a sacred site, a form of protection for the site, or maybe a warning. The 4th Buffalo Shield and Spear Totem. As you can see, the burial site there on the left, and on the right, the 4th shield is located way outside of the site, but within viewing distance of the walking trail. This may have been used as a marker to let people know that there was a burial site nearby. Spear and Skull Totem. Skulls symbolize courage, being fearless, and having a warrior spirit. The Native American spear is decorated with feathers and red straps. The red straps in the color red is used extensively in the site. Now the color red is the color of spring, with the eagle being its guardian. The eagle is, of course, a symbol of the Great Spirit, so these totems may have been placed to help the spirit of the departed travel skyward. Dreamcatcher. There is only one in this area, located at one end of the line of feathers that link a row of trees. In some Native American and First Nations cultures, a dreamcatcher is a handmade willow hoop on which is woven a net made of string or sinew. It is meant to replicate a spider's web and used as a protective charm. It may also be decorated with sacred items such as certain feathers or beads. I believe this is placed to keep unwanted spirits from entering the site. Hoop with feathers and horsetail. This appears to be a hoop with sinew or leather straps across it. It is adorned with feathers and what appears to be a horsetail with the skin attached. Now, a common action was to kill the deceased horse at the burial site, tying its tail to the scaffolding. Perhaps this may be a version of that action. Ceremonial buffalo skull on altar. There are several buffalo skulls around the site. Native Americans and buffalo have a long history together. Buffalo, or the American bison, has played an essential role in the survival and culture of the Native Americans who lived in the plains region of what is now the United States and parts of southern Canada. Burial ground animal attacks. While visiting and researching the site, I have seen various animals around this site. On numerous occasions I have been attacked by gray wolves, some just appearing out of thin air. During one visit, I was run over by a Rocky Mountain bull elk with a broken antler. American black bears have been on the site but have never attacked. I feel it's safe to say this site is watched over and protected. But be careful killing animals inside the site or even climbing on the scaffolding, as this does give negative honor. Stone Hatchet. You will find it in the middle of the medicine well at this site after completing the prerequisites in GTA Online. Located against 2 trees on the northwest side of the site is a totem made with a set of buffalo horns, a skull, a set of feathered wings, and net binding. Now if you watched my Fort Riggs video, you'll recognize this as the same totem on the single grave outside the fort. Does this mean that the Native Americans held at Fort Riggs were the same as the ones who used this burial site? I believe it does. Indian burial ground facts and theory. We know from the evidence that this was a very sacred burial site. But the question is, for who? Based on what I was able to research and from personal knowledge, all the evidence points it to being based off the Plains Indians, indigenous peoples of the Great Plains and Canadian prairies. Now, I'm not even going to attempt to narrow it down to a specific tribe, as that is far beyond my knowledge. Now, based on the totem, I believe that the Native Americans that used this site were the ones forcibly held later at Fort Riggs. But where did they go after Fort Riggs? We will explore this in the next video.